We're watching a Newsmax election special. The Midterms, You Decide 2014.
Welcome in, everybody. The political landscape of this country is going to look very different in just a few hours. You decided, your vote is now being counted, and we're now talking about it. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Ed Berliner.
And I'm J.D. Hayworth. We continue to monitor the results as they come in. Let's go back to our election desk. John Bachman standing by with new information. John, any more winners? Any surprises thus far, at least in terms of the latest round of numbers?
No surprises. We did just get some numbers in from Illinois, a new winner. And, of course, this was not a surprise. Dick Durbin has been reelected to the United States Senate. Durbin, of course, one of the highest-ranking Democrats in the Senate. But if the trend continues from what we've seen so far tonight, Dick Durbin will be returning to a much different Senate than the one he left before they went on recess. We do know that the GOP has those two seats that they've picked up so far, Shelley Moore Capito in West Virginia and Tom Cotton winning in Arkansas. Neither one of those were really big surprises, but there's a lot of gravity behind that Tom Cotton win because of the style and the fashion in which he beat Mark Pryor, the sitting incumbent Democrat. The poll just Cotton separated himself from Pryor over the last few days, and we saw one recent poll showing him up by 9 points, and the electorate proving that poll was pretty accurate in the days before the final tally was taken. We're still waiting for some of those numbers to come in, but Tom Cotton there, as you can see, beating Mark Pryor, in fact, by a little less than 10 points. So, guys, a lot of these polls that we were talking about just a couple days ago proving to be pretty accurate, at least in that case in Arkansas.
All right, John, thanks so much for joining us. We'll have more from John Bachman in the newsroom as we get more on the results, more on the numbers. Right now, let's kick this to Ford O'Connell, Republican strategist and our political analyst. He joins us via Skype. Ford, I would imagine that thus far the Republicans do not want to get up and do a victory dance just yet, but 2 seats are in, 4 to go, and everything seems to be going their way this evening.
Well, now is no time to spike the football. We got to keep our head down and make sure that we do well in Colorado and hopefully pull off an upset here in Kansas and continue westward towards Alaska, which of course we won't know till about 3 or 4 a.m. tomorrow. So things are going well right now. Unfortunately, we're still in a map election. I'm looking for a big surprise and a big pickup win for Republicans outside the norm right now. The numbers in Virginia look good for Ed Gillespie, but again, we still don't have the counties in Northern Virginia, and until we have that, it's very hard to say what's going to happen in Virginia. So that's a tight race. That's a good sign for things to come.
Well, let's talk more about Ed Gillespie because, Ford, as you mentioned it, thus far, it appears to be the real surprise tonight. But again, the way the vote tallies are reported, you're waiting for those counties, the metropolitan counties bordering the District of Columbia, and that could bring Warner back. Do we have any idea about turnout, party turnout in those counties in Northern Virginia?
Well, right now we don't. Obviously, Loudoun and Fairfax, the two we're looking at the most. We've also seen some numbers in Henrico and Virginia Beach, which have actually looked good for Ed Gillespie. But again, as we get closer to Arctic Blue Arlington and Old Town, Virginia, it doesn't look good for Ed Gillespie. I'm holding out hope here, but right now, if I had to guess right now, I would actually say that Warner's probably going to win by 3 to 6 points.
All right, so you're bringing a divergence of opinion. We had Dick Morris earlier say that he really thinks it's going to trend in favor of Ed Gillespie, but you do believe that Arlington, Old Town,
JD, but my deal is I undersell and overdeliver. That's where I really look at it from a political standpoint. I want to keep the red faithful, and I want to keep them watching. I don't want them to lose faith just because I shot the moon on a race.
All right, fair enough. Well, we appreciate a divergence of opinion. Ed Gillespie will continue to monitor the tallies from Virginia and take a look across the country as well.
All right, Ford O'Connell, thanks so much for joining us. We'll check back with him as the night goes on right now. So far it would seem as if, and again, I think he's right, don't spike the football after everything that the Republicans have heard here in the last couple of weeks. But you would have to look at some of the trends. And, of course, now we're digging a little bit deeper into the trends of the counties, the metro areas that are involved. This still speaks to a voting bloc. Americans are sick and tired of what they have seen, and they want something different. That's just what they want, and that's what works here.
Well, again, you touched on it earlier, an anti-incumbency feeling. And while we heard from others saying that, at least in terms of federal elections, House and the Senate, it's a referendum on Mr. Obama and his presidency, you have the situation in Pennsylvania where an incumbent Republican, Tom Corbett, booted by the Pennsylvania electorate in favor of Mr. Wolf. Now, of course, we understand the dynamics of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, heavy union vote, but again, perhaps anti-incumbency at work.
All right, let's get a quick comment now. Let's head for Newsday columnist, best-selling author Ellis Hennigan, who joins us live from New York. Ellis, we got about a minute 15 here before we take a break. We're going to catch you as the night goes on. Your first thoughts?
Well, listen, I'm keeping an eye on 4 purple states, right? The quickies are North Carolina and New Hampshire. And I would say they're both very close. Dems probably have a little reason to smile there. And then as the evening goes on, you watch Iowa and Colorado. Democrats probably having a tougher time in those 2. If Republicans sweep all 4, you guys really ought to be doing a victory dance. If Dems get 2 or 3 of them, well, you know, it wasn't quite the wave that people thought. Those numbers are not in yet. But that's really where the battle is. The fact that Mitch McConnell did great in Kentucky, and no big surprise. The fact that Mrs. Nunn is having trouble in Georgia, yeah, you know, that's probably to be expected in Georgia. But you watch my big 4, and the way they go is going to tell which party is smiling tonight and which is shaking its head in disappointment.
All right, Ellis, we'll check with you a little bit later on. We want to bring everybody up to speed here. We're just finding out that Republican Mike Rounds won a Democratic-held Senate seat in South Dakota. So that's 3 out of the 6 the GOP needs for the Senate majority. They are now halfway home.
And this was not a surprise, although interestingly enough, in South Dakota, you had former Republican Senator Larry Pressler get in as an independent, but Rounds apparently hung on for a win in the Republican column.
More numbers and more what's happening across the country right now. So again, the Republicans, 3 out of 6, they're halfway there to their goal of taking control. We have control right now of the numbers. Newsmax continues.
The Midterms You Decide 2014 will be back in just a moment.